Today we're talking about winter gardening, and we're gonna highlight cabbage and broccoli because those are it's the perfect time to harvest those.
The other day I was actually teaching some kids and I invited them to come out in the garden to see what we were growing, and they were shocked to see how many things we had in the beds. And I was explaining to them that since we're in North Carolina, we're actually in an 8B climate zone, so then we are able to grow all year round, even during the winter when it's super cold and we have to cover up our vegetables.
Yeah, you can totally grow so many vegetables in the winter, and a lot of people really don't realize that. I think you have a recipe planned for us today, right?
Yeah, since we're doing red cabbage and broccoli, I have a really yummy high protein slaw that we're gonna make. So it has lots of different plants in it and lots of really good vitamins and nutrients in there.
I'm Katie, I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm here with Cassie. She's a health educator, and we're gonna harvest broccoli and show you how to do it at home. So we have lots of broccoli plants here, and you'll see that there's not really a big head of broccoli like you would see at the grocery store. And that's just because this is the second time harvesting from this plant. So if you're harvesting at home for the first time, you will have a big head of broccoli.
And just like Katie was saying, these are just gonna be a little bit smaller since we've already harvested it. But in the kitchen, you might be using a little bit larger heads of broccoli for your recipes.
Yeah. All right, so since we're harvesting the smaller pieces of broccoli that have grown around the sides, we're gonna use these smaller pruners. So you can use those to harvest the smaller pieces. And if you're harvesting your broccoli for the first time, for that big head of broccoli, you want to use a big pruner like this. But don't worry if you don't have it, you can use a sharp kitchen knife. That'll be just fine.
And we also have a ton of these broccoli leaves just because we have been harvesting this broccoli plant a lot. And instead of throwing it out, we can actually use it for different recipes. We can saute the leaves, we could add them in a salad, or we could even use them for a soup stock. And if we end up not using them, we can throw them in the compost that we have here at Poe, so we're not wasting any food.
Broccoli is a winter plant, which means it's tough, it's got a tough skin, so it can handle being bent and moved around. You want to get your pruner tool and have it about 1 to 2 inches below where the flower or the floret of the broccoli starts. And then you're just going to cut, and it's really that easy.
And if it seems easy, that's because it is. This is one of the easier ones to harvest, so it's a great winter vegetable to have in your garden.
Next, we're going to harvest our cabbage. Now, technically this is red cabbage, but you can also call it purple cabbage. And to harvest, we need our big pruners because the stem is much larger than those smaller broccolis that we were harvesting. So you want to get your pruners underneath the plant, even underneath those excess larger leaves. And you want to get them about 1 to 2 inches below where the head of the plant starts to grow. And then you just give it a squeeze, cut it, and then you can hold it up. So this is what it looks like, and there's lots of excess leaves that you'll see here, especially on ours because it just rained, and so it had a big growth spurt.
And you can still use the leaves, so you could just pull them off like this, and you can use it just like we did with the broccoli. We could saute them, we could boil them, or we can just put it in the compost bin so we don't have any food waste that way.
Now that we have our harvest, we're gonna cover up our beds so that our plants stay warm, and now we're gonna go inside so that we can get warm.
So we invite you to get your own produce, wash and prep it, and then we can go in the kitchen together so we can make our rainbow slaw. Here at the Poe Center, we love to tell everybody to eat the rainbow, so we will be making a rainbow slaw today.
Yep, and we have lots of different colorful veggies here, and we also have the broccoli that we just harvested.
And we have a broccoli from the grocery store. So you can see that our garden broccoli is a lot smaller and the one from the grocery store is a lot bigger. So this could be the same size as a first harvest, and then this would be the size of a second harvest. So we are going to show you how we are going to cut that, but before we get started, make sure all of your veggies are washed, and we're gonna preheat the oven to 400 degrees. All right, our first step in this recipe is to cut the broccoli into florets. So you can kind of see it looks like a tree. So what we want to get the bushy part off. We're going to cut about 1 inch below right here, and those will be our florets. These knives are really sharp and we want to practice safe knife skills. So just take your time. The broccoli is going in lots of directions, so just be careful.
Yeah, so broccoli, a lot of people don't realize this, but broccoli is actually a really good source of calcium, and it also has vitamin K and vitamin C, and those are really good to boost your immune system. So this is perfect for like the cold season when a lot of sickness goes around. So
yeah, and I know it also has a ton of fiber in it. All parts of the broccoli plant has fiber in the stalk, in the florets, so it's super good to have your digestive system run smoothly. Did you like broccoli growing up as a kid?
I actually did, because they looked like mini trees.
Yeah.
That was the reason why I thought it was cool to eat broccoli.
So we're just gonna put them on the parchment paper on our baking sheet. So we're gonna pop these here. And if you could grab the tomatoes, and we're just gonna put them on here. Yeah. We're gonna drizzle them with olive oil, put some salt and pepper to taste, and I'm gonna flip them around a little bit with my spatula here, and then we'll pop them in the oven for about 15 minutes or until they are nice and brown. So our next step of the recipe is to shred our veggies. So I will be working on the broccoli stalk. And since it's high in fiber, it's gonna have a hard outer layer. So I wanna peel that off first before I shred it over here.
We're gonna shred the carrots as well. We want it to be kind of a similar size to the size that will be shredded. And be really careful with your grater. Don't get your fingers too close to the sharp part. And a lot of people really don't realize that carrots are a really good source of vitamin A, which is really good for your eyesight. And the vitamin A is what gives it such a beautiful orange color. So that's just like a really cool kind of fun fact.
That's awesome. So now I'm going to shred the broccoli stalk. I got that harder layer off of it, but it still might be a little bit hard, so I'll just have to keep in mind when I'm shredding that. So I'll shred to probably about here, and then we can compost the rest or save it for a stock for a soup. And if you do not have a shredder at home, we also recommend a food processor, or you can get your trusty chef's knife and just chop everything up the same size. Yeah.
So we put our shredded veggies in the bowl, and now we're gonna work on our cabbage.
So we have our beautiful cabbage that we harvested earlier, and you can see that a lot of the leaves are missing. We took those off and we'll use them for a different recipe or put those in the compost bin. And to get started with cutting the cabbage, you wanna cut off that big stem there, and then I'm gonna cut it in half. And with cabbages, they're really dense, so just be careful because it might be tough to cut into.
The cool thing about red cabbage specifically that a lot of people don't know is that the beautiful color is because of an antioxidant that it's a rich source of. So it has a lot of the antioxidant called anthocyanins. That is what gives certain fruits and vegetables their blue or purple color. So blueberries have it, and so does this red cabbage.
So this is the inside of the cabbage. Looks really beautiful, I think. But what we want to do, we want to get that white core out, because that's not going to be very tasty in our slaw.
And I feel like the cabbage is probably going to be a lot more easy to deal with, because once you get that core out of the way, you really just slice through it, and that's essentially how you shred cabbage.
And if you're feeling up to it, you can totally shred it with the box grater like we did with the carrots. But for this part, I'm just gonna cut it in fine pieces so that it goes well into our slaw. And the beauty of this recipe is that you can do it however you'd like, however your family would enjoy it. If they don't really like a certain ingredient, you could do more or less, or just change it out completely. So now we have moved on to the dressing portion of our slaw, and this is a great thing to do while we are letting our roasted vegetables cool. So we have our roasted broccoli and our tomatoes. They popped open a little bit. There's a little bit of juice. So this one, we have a couple of different ingredients. So I just put in some lime juice. Here's some sesame oil, rice vinegar, soy sauce, some honey. But really this dressing is super easy to make. You can make it ahead of time. You can make it so that you don't use all of it at once on the slaw. And for our recipe today, we decided to go with peanut butter. You can use any type of nut butter you might already have, but here we love peanuts. Also add some extra protein to the dish.
With the peanut butter and the edamame, that's 2 plant proteins, we'll have all of the amino acids, so it makes a complete protein.
And we also added some sriracha into it, and Katie and I really like sriracha, so we added a little bit of extra, but you can put it in a mason jar just like we did, or you could put it in a blender. Just make sure it's screwed on pretty tight, and then you just shake away. So this is really fun to do with families, so then you can have people shake it. Katie, I'll give you a turn, you can shake it up, but it's something fun that everybody can do. So now we are ready to assemble our slaw all together. So here we have our shredded cabbage, carrots, and broccoli stem. And I'm going to add the roasted broccoli and the roasted tomatoes, and Katie will add the edamame. I also chopped up some green onion, cilantro, just for a garnish that's completely optional, along with some peanuts and sesame seeds. I'm gonna add that on top for an extra crunch. You can toast these if you want to have another level of flavor, but again, totally optional.
Let us know what you would add to this recipe.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook and YouTube, and check out our other vlogs that we have made. And don't forget to stay Poe fit.